All right, y'all, I'm going to bring you another revolver here, and this is one I picked up recently, kind of as a opportunity, kind of as it popped up to me. So I reviewed the Taurus 856 snub nose here, but due to availability and cost of 38 special ammo, I wanted to see if there was a 22 version of this, and there actually turns out to be one, which is the Taurus 942, which is what you see here. Now, you might be thinking these things look almost identical, and that's because, well, they kind of are in some ways, and slightly different in others. But this 942 is basically a one-for-one analogy of a 856 and similar pattern revolvers. I mean, I think these are pretty much identical on like size, shape, weight, all that, all the little things that you can really detect and matter. These are pretty much identical. One difference though is that because this is a 22, it's got a different cylinder, of course, and as you can see there, it's got 8 shots versus 6. I wish it did have 6, so that way it would be a perfect like one-to-one capacity analogy to the 856. But hey, I'll never say no to more capacity in the same size. So that's one difference. The other difference is the sights as well. So when I bought this 856, it's the fixed sight model. So you can see there on the front, there is no roll pin to punch out to replace the front sight. It is simply part of the frame, and that's why I painted it orange there on the front. So probably should have done my research a little bit more before I bought that. But here on the 942, you can see there is a roll pin in the front there to replace the front sight if you would like. And there's also a little screw hole that's adjustable right there for the rear sight for windage. So the sights are a little bit different. As far as though like trigger pull, I can't tell the difference between these two. They shoot or feel anyways for as far as trigger pull pretty much exactly the same, which is awesome because that's really what I got this for. Is like I said, I wanted a training analogy so I could still get practice with one of my carry guns, but using 22, which is much cheaper and much more readily available. So because shooting snub nose revolvers is absolutely a skill set in and of itself. I mean, shooting revolvers by themselves is a different skill set from semi-autos, but a snub nose is even harder to shoot and arguably one of the hardest to shoot pistols out there. So why not get some extra trigger time behind something that is basically a one-for-one analogy? So now the reason why I say this thing was kind of a spur of the moment kind of purchase is because these 942s are surprisingly hard to find. Like I spent probably a few months kind of looking around online for any kind of place that had any of these in stock in any configuration or shape, and most of them came up being 22 Magnum, which I didn't really want a 22 Magnum because a lot of cases 22 Magnum actually ends up costing us just as much as a 38 Special, and it's kind of defeats the purpose for me. But 22 Magnum is a very fun round to shoot, I will say, and quite capable too. But for what I wanted it for, this was the one I wanted. So doing my usual rounds of gun shops around town and everything, one of my favorite shops had this in their case there. So I ended up picking it up. Probably paid a little too much, but considering how hard these things are to find right now, I really wish Taurus would make more of these or just make them more available. I mean, I had to pick it up, and because I know that if I didn't pick it up then and there, some other person would. And that's exactly what would have happened because there was an older gentleman behind me who was also eyeballing it, and this was on the counter, and I'd already told the guy I was going to buy it, and we're filling up at 44.73, and he's like, "Oh, are you buying that?" I said, "Yeah," and he's like, "Oh man, I was going to buy that." So, yeah, But aside from that, from a one-for-one analogy to my little carry gun there, little snub-nosed 22 revolver like this actually has other practical applications too. The whole kit gun thing, having a tiny 22 revolver or other small pistol like that for whatever you might need a small 22 for. Also, this will be a handy training aid, I believe. If I'm trying to train someone else on how to use, like, let's say a small Smith & Wesson J-frame, right, snub nose, this could be a pretty good, training analogy because I don't, I don't know Smith & Wesson's 22 revolver catalog all that well off the top of my head, but I'm sure they have a J-frame analogy just like this for their concealed carry revolvers. But this is still close enough. Operates the same way. I mean, it even has the same kind of cylinder release, push forward for releasing it, just like Smith's. So that's a close analogy as well. But as with every revolver that I get, I like to have speed loaders for it, and I ran into some issues with this one because it's like the 942 is like a not a new model, but it's also not super old either. But it's also one of those things that wasn't really produced a whole lot. Like they stopped making them, and then they're remaking them now. But it's not a very prevalent revolver. So finding a speed loader that fits it was a little bit difficult. But there was a company called 5-Star that made or makes little speed loaders for them, and I got mine in this nice blue color. I got 2 of them, and these work okay. I wouldn't say they're super solid in terms of feeding into the revolver itself and how fast I'm able to do it, because annoyingly the rotation method for releasing these is opposite of all of my HKS speed loaders, which is what I'm used to, and is the type of speed loader that I use for my 38 Special is HKS, and so these rotate opposite to release, and that is a huge hassle for me because of training, right? So my muscle memory is like, okay, turn this way, whatever to release it. So if I'm trying to go fast and I'm trying to jam this in here, and I turn it the wrong way, and I'm like, why is it not coming out? Well, duh, that's why. So that's unfortunate, but at least there are some speed loaders that work in this gun, so that's cool. Another difference I noted when I was trying to go fast with the 942 is the ejection rod. If I can display this in such a way. So here's the 38 Special over here, and here's the 22. As you can see, the ejection rods are different lengths. And this matters because the corner here, where it locks up into the frame, this corner right there is very sharp. And I learned that the hard way when opening up the cylinder and I'm trying to get the empties out, and I hit it with my hand like this. Well, it was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be, so I really cranked on that, and then I ended up cutting my hand on that sharp corner right there, and that really hurt. I was not expecting that at all, but it makes sense because you don't need as much ejection to get these 22 cases out, so just another difference there. Another thing I noticed is also depending on the brand of ammunition used, the 22 cases will expand, of course, in the cylinder, and some expand differently than others. Some have slightly different dimensions and things like that. But some casings got stuck in the cylinder here, and instead of having a nice, clean ejection rod there, I had to really smack that thing, kind of shock it. To get the casings to come out, and when they came out, they didn't just fall out. I mean, they like shot out of the cylinder. So they expanded in such a way that they were just stuck just a little bit, and so you couldn't just do a simple smooth push. You had to really whack it, and then all the casings come flying out. So if you've ever like shot like a top break revolver, when you break it open like that and all the casings fly out, it was like that. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's fun to do that. You just hit it and just everything comes out. That's pretty cool. I doubt it was intentional, but it's still pretty cool. Shooting this, it shoots pretty much exactly like the 856 does. Same trigger pull, single action, double action. It's all exactly the same. Feels exactly the same. Obviously, recoil is going to be different. But as far as ergonomics, how it feels in my hand, sight picture, and how I'm manipulating it and everything feels exactly the same. So that is good for my intended purpose. I will say though, 22 LR, obviously most of the stuff you're going to be shooting is not very clean ammunition, and that is definitely the case with this. So I spent an afternoon and put about 200 rounds of like Aguila bulk box stuff through this, and this whole gun was like, the cylinder was basically a tarnished black and gray. There was soot all around the front of the cylinder here, stuff on the top strap, stuff on the bottom of the frame. This whole gun was just sooty and gross and black. So it's definitely a dirty operation with this pistol. Another thing that kind of concerned me is that over time, let's see if I can get a pointer here. Over time, some attention will need to be taken to that's a good angle right there. This area right here where I'm kind of running this pick here. This area right here has a absolute crap ton of crud and carbon and lead buildup, and it is quite hard to get in there and scrub all that crap out. But over time, that will need to be cleaned out because it will continue to build up and build up and build up, and might cause an issue with the operation of the gun. I'm not sure how many rounds that's going to take, but I always make it a point whenever I'm shooting this thing to absolutely get in there, you know, with a pick, a brush, lead remover, that kind of thing, to really get in there and try to get as much of that stuff out as I can. So, but yeah, I mean, that's just the nature of 22. It's going to be dirty. So, and you can see the the front face there is just absolutely black already. And I only have about maybe 500 rounds through this revolver, and it's just, yeah, it's going to be stained forever. So, but hey, that comes with the territory of use and the nature of 22. So it's to be expected. This is definitely not meant to be a super duper pretty presentation gun. So it's okay with me. As far as accuracy, a buddy of mine was able to take this out to 25 yards, and I think he got a nice little 3-inch group with this. So it's definitely capable. It surprised the heck out of me. And we weren't even using like high quality ammunition either, like bulk box stuff, and he's still able to get a 3-inch group at 25 yards with a snub nose 22. Hey, that's pretty impressive, I think. More than enough for what people are going to need to do with this. So, considering the pretty much the extent of range that I will take for even this is 25 yards. I don't need to go any further than that, so I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, so I feel like I said, I paid a little bit too much for this, but considering scarcity, availability, and what I wanted it for, and all that, I'd say this is actually a pretty decent gun for what you're buying it. You know, even if you don't have the 38 special version, like the 856 or whatever, I still think there's a number of pretty good applications for a small snub nose 22 revolver like this, especially with an 8-shot capacity. So if you absolutely had to, I mean, you could load defensive 22 ammo in this, and you could use it as a defensive piece, or maybe a snake killer or varmint killer or something like that. But you know, I don't personally see a whole lot of reason to carry this as a defensive firearm when you have an 856 that is literally the same size and pretty much same weight and everything else except for capacity, and carries a lot more power. Same trigger pull, same operation, same everything else. I don't see a reason to carry this 22 as a defensive option when you have the 856, which is much more suited for that purpose. So I would really like to see Taurus come out with a 942 that has like a 3 or 4-inch barrel, maybe like adjustable, like more adjustable target sights, something like that. That would be kind of cool. I know Smith & Wesson has a similar revolver like that, but that thing costs like $800-900 for what I was looking at, which is a little pricey. I'm sure it's a nice gun, but a little pricey. So yeah, I am quite happy with how this 942 has turned out. I will continue to use it as a training tool and also something to just kind of plink around and shoot with, because I mean, it being a revolver, this will cycle all 22 ammunition, of course. And just for kicks, I did in fact take some 22 Colibris, and I loaded up a whole cylinder full, and I'm sitting at the range there, and I'm about 10 yards from the target, and I have index cards posted up, about 6 of them. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just blasting away, and the range officer comes up to me, and he says, "Well, what are you doing? You're just cycling your gun, and there's, you're not doing anything." And I said, "Oh, no. I have Colibris in here. Trust me. Watch." So I go to single action. I line up against one of the index cards there, and I go, "Pah!" And you can barely hear it because the whole range is shooting and everything. You barely hear it. And Calibris have no velocity anyways, but out of a snub nose, it has even less. So he didn't even hear it go off. But I could actually see the bullet go downrange, hit the index card, and bounce off of the index card. It didn't even have enough power to penetrate an index card at 10 yards. So I was like, yeah, just watch it, just watch it. And I kept shooting it, and he's like, oh, now I see it. He's like, what the heck are you shooting? And I showed him the little Calibri itty bitty little things, and he's like, wow, that's crazy. So that's always a good laugh when the round is so anemic that literally like my CO2 BB gun in the other room over there has more power than a Calibri shot out of a snub nose revolver. Like that's just funny to me. Um, and kind of good fun too. Maybe a good training aid for someone who's super recoil sensitive or just wants to mess around. You know, it's less powerful than a BB gun. You know, that's funny to me. So yeah, this also will shoot like the 22 snake shot, the CCI like silver case with the plastic like little cap on it with all the snake shot in it. I tried to test like the patterning of this at about 5 yards, and I mean it's if I'm aiming center mass at like a torso sized target, the pellets are hitting like all of this. It's just the spread is enormous. And some of the pellets, of course, didn't even penetrate the paper. You could see little indentations in the paper itself, or where it was trying to break through. But in a lot of cases, the pellets literally didn't even penetrate paper at 5 yards. So I would question the effectiveness of that for killing snakes and other small things out of a snub nose. But I imagine you could do it with enough practice and enough ammunition. Or if you're a good enough shot, you don't need snake shot, right? So, anyway, yeah, overall, I am quite pleased with this purchase. I think it has a lot of cool applications and things, and just getting more trigger time behind a snub nose is always fun, and really helps you kind of dial in your skills, because like I said, shooting a snub nose revolver is one of the hardest categories of pistol to shoot accurately, well, and fast. So, you know, the fact that there is snub nose 22s is awesome. So yeah, I'm happy with it, and I will continue to use it. So anyway, that's all I gotta say about that. Just figured I'd bring that real quick because it is just such a nice one for one analogy to one of my carry guns. So very happy with that. So anyway, that's all I gotta say about that, and we'll catch you next time.